This is a rubber curry, and what we're going to do is we're going to go around in circles. And by going around in circles, you're bringing the dirt to the surface. When you're brushing, you want to make sure to go under their belly and get where the cinch is going to be. And just make sure that you're bringing the dirt to the surface, going in circular motion. A body brush. And we're going to remove all that excess hair and dirt that we just brought to the top. So you want to do short, strong strokes. Once again, you want to get under the girth or under the, behind the elbow. This is the elbow of a horse, because that's where the cinch will be, and you don't want any dirt or sticks stuck to the hair that might irritate the horse.
Go ahead.
Also, before you ride, you want to make sure that their hooves are clean. And you reach down and you kind of grab their fetlock, and they should pick their hoof right up. And you hold it behind or in front of their hoof. And you use the back side of a pick and pick away from yourself so you're not flicking dirt on yourself and you have more leverage. And just make sure that there's no rocks or sticks within the frog. You don't want to go too deep in the frog, but this is the frog right here if you can see it, and the hoof, and this is the shoe. So once that's all cleaned out, you can do the rest of the feet and you should be good. So this is a saddle pad. We're going to put this on first, but before we do that, we're going to make sure that there's no sticks or burrs that might be on the saddle pad that could irritate the horse under the saddle. And when you're ready to put it on, just make sure that they're not going to get spooked, and then simply throw it over and make sure it's centered on the horse. You want it above the withers a little bit. You don't want it far back here, and you don't want it way up on their neck. You want to make sure it's in the middle, just like that. On most saddle pads, there's an extra piece of fabric. You want that towards the front of the saddle pad, so when you're cinching your horse up, it acts as an extra protection from the girth so it doesn't pinch the horse. So this is a Western saddle, and before I put it on, I have my girth all put up on my saddle and my breast collar is over the saddle. And when I'm putting it on, I'm going to put my stirrup over my horn, so when I lay it on top of him, it's not going to slap him on the other side. Now I want to make sure that my saddle pad is nice and square and ready, and when I'm ready, I'm going to gently swing this on top of the horse, making sure not to like slam it on him or hit him with the stirrup on the other side. Okay. Once my saddle is on, I want to make sure that the saddle pad is all square, that I like to make a little tent with my saddle pad underneath of the pommel of the saddle. And this makes sure it doesn't pinch the horse while we're riding, because saddles are can be about 50 to 60 pounds. And if that's rubbing on their withers, it's very uncomfortable. So once again, we're just going to situate the saddle pad and make sure it fits under the saddle. You can go ahead and take your stirrup off and drop it down, and then bring your breast collar over and detach your girth from your saddle, so it just kind of hangs down. Just like so. Once again, make sure that this extra piece of fabric on your saddle pad is underneath of the cinch, so it acts as an extra protection from the girth. Going around a horse, make sure to keep your hand on its butt so he knows where you are at all times. It's just a safety precaution so you don't get, you don't frighten the horse right here. So next, we're going to put the front girth on first in case he takes off, because if you put the back one on, I don't think we don't have a back one, but if we were to put the back one on first, it's not tight and the saddle can fall off if they freak out. So you want to reach under and grab the cinch with your right hand and take the latigo, and what you're going to do, this is a latigo by the way, you're going to thread it through the ring on your cinch. Make sure it's nice and straight and flush to the saddle, and then you're going to thread it through another, it should be attached to another ring up top. You're going to thread it through front to back, if you can see right here. Pull it all the way through, and once again go through the bottom ring and pull that. Make sure it's nice and straight, there's no twists or anything in the saddle. Then you're going to tighten a little bit by pulling up. So once you have the cinch pretty snug, there's two ways you can finish this. You can either put the notch through the hole and then kind of loosen it and secure that notch right there in the hole, and then take your access latigo and put it through this top little carrier. Or there's another way you can do it without having to use that little hook, and that's by taking the latigo, going through the hole one more time, then you're going over everything. Yeah, sometimes I like to put my stirrup up here to keep everything out of the way. But anyways, you go over the entire latigo that you just bundled up, back through the hole, and then down over everything. Pull it nice and snug. And you have this cute little knot. Keeps everything secure, keeps you allowed to go on. As far as tightness goes for your cinch, you want to be able to fit your fingers in there, and you don't want it extremely tight where you can't fit your fingers there because that's very uncomfortable for the horse. But you don't want it loose to where it's hanging or swinging or where you can move it really easily. So that's our cinch. Next we're going to do the breast collar. So you can reach around the front and you'll find your breast collar. You want to make sure it's not twisted on the other side, make sure it's straight. And all that you do with this is there's usually a ring, D-ring in the front, and you just go through. And you want your breast collar, once again, you don't want your breast collar super tight. It can be loose, it's just from keeping the saddle from falling back. A piece that hangs in front of the chest, and that will clip to the middle of your cinch. So if your cinch is on right and it's fit properly, the ring that this is attached to should be between the two front legs. It shouldn't be over to one side or the other. And it makes for a comfortable fit for your horse. Now we're going to bridle our horse. So this is a form of a snaffle bit, which is easy on the horse's mouth and it's good for beginner riders. Now before we bridle, we're going to want to take the halter off, but not completely off in case the horse gets spooked so it doesn't run away. So next you're going to take your reins and you're going to slide them over your horse's head. And taking your right hand, you're going to want to go over the forelock or the pole of the horse, which is right here. And you grab the top of the bridle with your right hand, and with your left hand you kind of guide the bridle into the horse's mouth. There's no teeth where the bit is, so it's not rubbing against the teeth. It's actually in a fleshy part of their mouth, so it's not bugging them. Then you take the ear farthest away from you and slip it under the band, and then the ear closest to you and slip it under the band so it fits nicely. Make sure your chin strap is under your horse's chin. It's not too tight and it's not too loose. It's just there for support and keeping the bit in the mouth. You can then tighten your throat latch. It's nice and flexible. It's not super tight and it's not super loose. You should be able to fit a fist into your... When you're fitting your bridle, you want to make sure that there's a couple wrinkles, like the horse is smiling a little bit. You don't want the bridle or the bit in the mouth super loose or else it's not going to do anything. And you don't want it super tight to where it's pulling on the horse's mouth because that's uncomfortable. So then before you leave, you want to make sure that your halter is up and out of the way so it could be a potential hazard. You don't want any horses stepping in it or getting tangled. This is Molly. She's going to be my student today. She's wearing a helmet with the chin strap secure. It's not too loose, but it's not too tight. It's comfortable. So what she's going to do is, if she is facing towards the front of the horse, she's going to take her left leg and put it in the stirrup and hold the reins with her left hand while holding the hair of the horse. She's going to take her left leg and put it in the stirrup. Once she's in this position, she's going to grab the mane of the horse and pull herself up, swinging her right leg over the other side of the horse. You don't want to slam your leg on the other side or squeeze the horse as you're getting on because it can frighten them and they can take off. Once she's found the stirrup on the other side of their foot, she wants to put her foot in, not extremely far in to where she can get stuck, and not too far back to where it's just her toes, but she wants to be on the ball of her feet with the stirrup. Next, with her hands, she wants to take both reins in either hand and have them up in front of the saddle. She wants her reins to be even, so they're not pulling one way or the other and giving the horse mixed signals, but she wants them even in front of the horse. If she doesn't feel comfortable with two hands, she can hold on with one hand and hold on to the horn with the other hand. Now, as far as body posture goes, she wants to make sure that there's a straight line going from her shoulder, her butt, and the back of her heel. She doesn't want her feet way back here because this is a sensitive part on the horse and it can cause them to get jumpy. And she doesn't want them way up here because that has no contact with the horse because of the cinch. So she wants it in a straight line with a straight back. She doesn't want to be leaning forward, because often if you lean forward in a horse, it usually means to go forward, and she doesn't want to be leaning back because it throws the balance of a horse off, and it's very uncomfortable for the rider and the horse. So once again, just be straight, shoulders, butt, and back of the heel all in a straight line. We're going to teach her how to move the horse, how to walk. So to move forward, she's going to apply a little pressure to her legs and slightly lean forward. She's not going to squeeze or kick the horse because then the horse will want to trot, and she's not going to throw her hands forward so the horse wants to take off. But just a light lean to turn. She's going to, if she wants to turn right, she'll do a slight pull with the right rein. And usually you want to look or turn your body in the direction that you're moving so the horse can read your body motion and knows which way you're turning if you're looking that way and if your shoulders are turned that way. You need a lot of rein because you don't want to be pulling on the horse's mouth. Also, when you're turning, if you're pulling with your right hand, you're going to be applying pressure with your left leg. So you're doing kind of counter opposite. So the horse always wants to move away from the pressure. So if you're pulling and pushing, the horse will turn that way. So she's going to go ahead and walk at a slow walk by leaning forward and squeezing with her legs. So as she's turning, notice that she's looking the way she wants to go. So, and her shoulders are kind of moving in that direction, and the horse can feel that body movement. When you're walking, you want to be very relaxed. You don't want to be super tense because the horse can feel if you're nervous or tense, and just a very relaxed motion. You can move your hips along with your horse to help with that relaxation. So as she's walking, you want to make sure that she's keeping that straight line. One of her heels aren't super far back or they're not super far forward, but her shoulders, butt, and ankles or heels are still in that single line going from the pole to the bottom. And her hands are in front of the saddle. They're not super far forward, they're not pulling back, and her reins are even, so the horse isn't going one way or the other. Now she's going to pick up a trot, and for a trot, you just want to squeeze your horse a little bit more. You can give them voice signals if they reply well to that, which is like a kissing or a sucking sound. And when she does that, she wants to put her hands forward a little bit, give the horse a little bit more mouth, and squeeze her legs. So when she's ready, she'll pick up a trot. Now trots are a little bit more bumpy than a walk, so you have two options. You can sit the trot like she's doing right now, which is where her body is absorbing the motion of the horse, or you can have a posting trot. So a posting trot takes a little bit more practice, but it's more comfortable. So when you're posting, the horse's gait has 2 beats at a trot, so it's up, down, and on every other beat you're going to stand up in your saddle, sit down in your saddle, stand up in your saddle, sit down. So she's going to demonstrate that for us as she comes around. So it's not a dramatic motion, it's a very subtle motion. You're kind of letting the horse's gait, natural gait, throw you up in the air and then you sit back down. So once again, it's like every other beat, you're going up and down with the horse's gait. Once again, her hands are in front of the saddle, they're not pulling back, they're not extremely far forward, and she's keeping that straight line. She's not hunched over the saddle, and she's not leaning back behind the saddle. She's going to pick up a lope, which is a faster gait. So she's turning left, so she's going to pick up a left lead. And by doing that, she's going to take her right leg, reaching it a little bit behind that straight line that we have, and pushing the left leg forward and into a left lead. So this is a more advanced gait for a horse. Usually for a beginner, you wouldn't want to be in this. But if you can notice in the video, his left leg is reaching farther out than his right leg, and that's how you know he's in a left lead lope. He has a very smooth lope, and notice how she's sitting. She's looking where she's wanting to turn, and she's keeping her hands nice and balanced. They're not bouncing, they're not all over the place. She's a very controlled manner. Now when she wants to go stop, what she's going to do is she's going to sit back and put her back pockets as deep as she can into the saddle, and then pull back slightly on the reins. She's not going to yank the reins backwards. She wants her first reaction to be sitting deep in the saddle. Her back pockets, like there's rocks in the back of her pockets, and they're pulling her into the saddle. And then lastly, she'll pull her hands to stop the horse. Now if this horse were to take off and Molly did not know what to do, her first reaction, this is like an emergency drill, it's called the one rein stop. Slide down the reins as far as she can towards the bit of a horse, and then pull his head all the way in. And this is going to force the horse to stop moving instantly. He might take a few circles, be prepared for a few fast circles, but essentially it'll stop the horse and keep him from traveling forward or taking off with you. Something that I've been practicing on him is him picking up his left lead smoothly. He tends to favor his right lead more, so we're going to want to throw his left shoulder out in front. And by doing that, I'm going to reach forward with my opposite leg and kind of go up towards his shoulder more, and back with my other leg to open up that shoulder to catch that left lead. So we're kind of opening the door to catch the left lead. So we'll see if we can do this. leg is going further forward than his right leg, and he is a beautiful transition into his left leg. And to stop, you sit down and pull your hands back last. When you're walking, you want both hands in front of the saddle with an even contact on each side of the bit. If you want one-handed, you can do one hand, whichever hand you feel comfortable, and hang onto the saddle. When you're walking to help with balance, you move your hips with the gait of the horse. You're not super straight, you're not leaning back, and you're not over the horn of the saddle, but you have that straight line going down. Picking up a trot, you squeeze slightly and send your energy a little bit forward. This is a posting trot, so I'm rising with every other beat of the horse. And then this is a sitting trot where I'm just absorbing and kind of bouncing, bobbing up and down with the horse. I'm using my calf and thigh muscles to hang on so I'm not out of the saddle. Then once again, when I ask for a lope, my left leg back and keep my right leg forward and open that door for the left leg. And you want to sit your lope, you don't want to be out of your saddle, you don't want to be leaning back, you want to be straight and going with the gait of the horse. I'm going to do a one rein stop, so I'm going to slide my rein down and pull the horses in. He'll turn a couple times in a circle, but he's immediately stopped. So that's what you do in a case of emergency if your horse is taking off. You slide your rein down and you pull the horse to your hip, and he'll do a couple circles, but he'll eventually stop. As you dismount, put your reins in one hand. You always want to dismount on the left side of a horse. You can hold on to your hair, or you can just keep your hand right here or on the saddle pad. You keep your left leg in the stirrup, release your right leg from the stirrup and swing it over. Then with your hands balanced, you take both stirrups out and you absorb the shock with your knees. You don't want to land straight legs because it hurts your ankles or your knees, but you want to make sure that your foot is out of the stirrup before you drop to the ground. A safety precaution when with your horse is you never want to tie them up with the bridle tied to anything, because if the horse spooks, it can potentially rip the bit out of the horse's mouth, and it can be dangerous for the horse and anyone around the horse. Also, when you're around horses, you don't want to make sudden movements or jumpy actions because the horses can get frightened. Keep your hand on your horse at all times when you're going around the horse so they know where you are. And that is all I have today. I hope you enjoy our videos and have a terrific rest of your day.